Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to Food for Health. I'm glad to see everybody here. We're missing a few faces. I didn't send out our regular reminder email because that email goes to almost 500 people. And 500 people can't fit in this room. And some people that weren't able to get on the list feel kind of bad about that. So I thought, well, I won't send out the reminder. But anyway, we're glad that you're here. So I have my handy dandy sous chef here with me tonight. This is Lily. For those of you who haven't met my daughter, Lily, she's grown up eating the way that you're learning about in this program. And she's learning to cook. And it's kind of fun because my life is really busy. I'm involved with a variety of different things. And there are times when I just can't cook. And she's reached the stage where I can say, okay, Lily, you're in charge of lunch. And I'll come home and I might have a pot of soup. I might have a whole menagerie of things. And it's been really fun to watch her grow and learn and develop. And I think she's going to be much better at it than me because I had to learn this by following recipes until I didn't need recipes. She never uses a recipe for anything. And it always comes out good, even baking. I always use a recipe for baking. Cooking, not so much, but baking, always. Cannot get her to use a recipe. Yes, sir. Her out. Right? That's right. That's right. So our recipe for tonight is Black Bean Edamame Salad. And I really like it, but I have to make a confession to you. I like it made in advance and set aside in the fridge overnight because it allows those flavors to marinate. A lot of cold bean-based salads I prefer made in advance. And I had intended to make this last night for you and sit it in the fridge. And we got home last night and our refrigerator, which is a very nice refrigerator, it's 2 years old, is very dead. I know, I was not happy. So it was not made in advance, but it's still tasty. It's just not as tasty as it would be had I made it and let it sit for a little while. Okay, so it calls for a third of a, I'm going to do, the dressing first. Third of a cup of lime juice. I did squeeze this lime juice. There are some recipes that I'll use bottled lime juice or lemon juice for. This is not one of them. So I did squeeze, this is about 2.5 limes here. 2 large cloves of garlic minced. For those of you who've been here before, you know that I get my garlic in bulk and I put it in a food processor and I whiz it down and I put it in ice cube trays. I just take a spatula and I smooth it in the ice cube trays. And then when I need garlic, I'll pop a cube out. I might cut the cube in half, or I might put the whole thing in, because, you know, if a little garlic is good, a lot is better, right? What I'm making right now before you is going to be my mother-in-law's lunch. She can't do garlic. So just pretend that I put garlic in there for you. Okay. Half a teaspoon of cumin. And a tablespoon of, it could be Bragg's, it could be liquid aminos, it could be tamari, but one of those kinds of things. We're going to use 1 tablespoon. Then we're going to use a bag of sweet corn, frozen sweet corn that's thawed, all right? I always use organic corn. I don't eat corn if it's not organic. It's so heavily genetically modified and sprayed with things that I don't want in my body that I just always make sure that it's organic. So we just dump that right out. And then the next thing is a bag of edamame. Now, how many of you are familiar with edamame beans? Yeah, so it's the green soybean. Soybeans, I only use them if they're organic. I don't use them if they're not. I could only get 2 bags of organic edamame beans, and I needed 3. So for what I'm taking home with me, I'm using a bag of sweet peas, and you can do that. So we're just exchanging the edamame for peas, and that's not a problem. It's still green, so you get the pretty color, but you also get that sweet, slight little crunch that you get from edamame beans. And then it calls for, I normally cook my own beans, but because I didn't have refrigeration, I didn't do it. So I did use cans. It calls for 2 cans of beans. It could be black beans, it could be kidney beans. I like one of both. Or a little of both. And what I normally do when I cook my beans is I'll cook more than I need. Let's say I'm cooking black beans for black bean soup. I will cook more than I need, and the extra I take and I stick in my freezer. So when I need a cup of beans or a can of beans, I just grab it from my freezer. I'm not actually using a can. But these were drained, so it's a can of black beans and a can of red kidney beans. And then we need an onion. Now, I'm only putting a half an onion in this bowl tonight because this onion is really super strong. And it would be a little too strong for my mother-in-law who's going to be eating this. For me, I'd use the whole thing, right? Fortunately, my husband likes onion. But for her, I'm going to only use half an onion. It also calls for a red sweet pepper. You could use orange, you could use yellow, you could use green. I like the color of the red or the orange because it looks happy in the bowl. All those pretty colors melded together there.
Would you use organic for that as well?
I do, yeah. I can't always get organic ones, but when they're available, I do. You can grow them and freeze them, although when they defrost, they're better for like soup. They kind of get a little, I don't know, a little soft. Yeah, a little mushy. But they're great for soups, and they'll grow quite nicely. Okay, so we've got our onion, we've got our red pepper, and we're going to dump that right in there.
One quick question. You said you prepare your garlic and you store it in the ice thing.
I do.
And you talk about freshness. Doesn't oxidation cut the garlic taste out a little over a period of time? If you cut it ahead of time and have it refrigerated for a week, a month, whatever.
So it's in the freezer.
Oh, it's in the freezer.
It's in the freezer, not the refrigerator. Yeah. And I go through it so fast. I'll go through an ice tray of garlic in about 2 weeks, because I put garlic in everything. All right, and we'll stir that right up there. So we've got our lime juice, our garlic, our cumin, our brags, sweet corn, edamame, peas. We've got our beans, our onion, our pepper. And that's all there is to it. Now, an option is to add chia seed. And I like adding chia seed. It adds fiber, it adds omega-3s, but I only do it right before I serve it. Right before I serve it, because if you add it too far in advance, it kind of gets gelatinous, and that just feels gross on my tongue. I don't like it, right? But if I sprinkle it on right before I serve it, then it doesn't have time to get gelatinous. Adds just a tiny little bit of a crunch and a lot of nutrition, all right? I did not put this in your, in what you're gonna take home to sample, because it was, it sat around for an hour or so, and I didn't want it slimy in your mouth. But just know that you can add chia seed. It's not a requirement. It doesn't really impact the flavor that much. But it's kind of a fun thing. And that's all there is to it. And you can see this pretty salad, right? Now that can be a whole bowl in a meal. I mean, a whole meal in a bowl. You could serve it over a bed of lettuce, you know. You could put it in a burrito. You could eat it plain. There are lots of things that you can do with it. We normally eat it plain. It could be a side dish or it could be the main dish. I have also been known to add leftover steamed broccoli. You can add other things, but it's kind of a fun thing. And like I said, I do like it made a little bit in advance. I prefer that. Any questions? All right, hang tight. We'll transition here and then we'll get going.